Runway safety is an important issue in aviation. Elements of this will be emphasized on your practical test, but it's pertinent to your everyday flying as well.
Its importance became clear when one of the worst aviation accidents in history occurred on Tenerife Island. Two Boeing 747s collided as one attempted to take off in the fog while the other taxied on the runway. This collision cost more in terms of human life than any other aircraft accident. The FAA tracks runway safety in terms of runway incursions. A runway incursion is any unauthorized intrusion onto a runway, regardless of whether or not an aircraft presents a potential conflict. While only tracked at tower-controlled airports, runway incursions can and do occur at airports without a tower. Let's look first at safety on the ground with regard to tower-controlled airports. Generally, when you get taxi instructions for a departure, you are directed along a specified route. Read back the instructions to the ground controller and comply with any hold short requirements that you are assigned. Compare the instructions to your taxiway charts and signs that you see after you have completed your readback. When taxiing, you must receive a specific runway crossing clearance to cross or operate on any active, inactive, or closed runway along your route. The hold short markings for a runway look like this. You must hold short of the solid line. The dashes are on the runway side, the active side. If the controller instructs you to hold short of the ILS critical area, those markings look like this. An airplane past this point on the ground can interfere with the ILS signals for airplanes on approach. If there is any doubt about it, question the controller before you taxi past any yellow lines perpendicular to your path or onto any runway. Taxiway and hold short markings are all in yellow. There are also runway holding position signs with a red background located at the holding position on taxiways that intersect a runway or on runways that intersect other runways or at the departure and approach ends of the runway. These signs, with white letters and a red background, are another signal that you are coming to a runway, and they will tell you which runway that will be. If the sign just says 27, that means you are coming to the threshold of runway 27. If it is a taxiway other than at the end of the runway, or if the sign is on an intersecting runway, it will identify the runway ahead. If, for example, it says 202, that means the threshold of runway 20 is to the left, and the threshold of runway 2 is to the right. After landing, you are not considered clear of the active runway until you have turned off the runway and have an unobstructed route to the hold short line. You must ensure that your entire airplane is across the line before stopping. Remember, taxiing onto a runway at the wrong time is bad aviation manners, and it could be lethal. At a non-tower airport, there may or may not be markings, but the drill is the same. Don't taxi onto a runway until and unless you are 100% positive that the runway is yours for the taking. Plan to begin your takeoff roll immediately to avoid loitering on the active runway. Use the common traffic advisory frequency to listen for other aircraft and to announce your location and intentions. But also remember that all aircraft may not be using this frequency, so you have to look for other airplanes. Be especially wary if there are multiple runways that cross, or if it's a single runway airport and you can't see the other end of the runway. Study everything before taxiing onto a runway for departure or before crossing a runway. The designation of an active runway at a non-tower airport is advisory in nature only, and the definition of an active runway is any runway or runways currently being used for takeoff or landing. Taxiways at large airports are identified by letters on yellow and black signs. There are also those yellow stripes down the center of the taxiway. Don't taxi anywhere there's not that yellow stripe until prepared to enter the runway. If a controller tells you to taxi to runway 27 via taxiways Charlie and Alpha and you don't have a chart of the airport or don't understand, ask for progressive taxi instructions. All this gets more difficult at night, but all of the basics still hold true and will keep you out of trouble, daylight or dark.